Namo Aditapa. Thanks so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fourth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and to relieve others of their suffering. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I'm determined to speak truthfully, with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope. I will not spread news I do not know to be certain, and will not criticize or condemn things of which I am not sure. I will refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord, or that can cause the family or community to break. I'm determined to make all efforts to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. For our Dharma lesson, we're reading Unexpected Freedom by Ajahn Munindo. We're continuing in Chapter 1, beginning a section on the effort to remember. This teaching was the first gift I received from Ajahn Tate, a precious gift and one that very much set me up for the practice that I've followed ever since. I was an enthusiastic beginner who'd had a bit of pleasurable experience in meditation. I was determined to get somewhere in my practice, and I made a huge amount of effort. After having got up early in the morning and gone out on alms round, I would eat the one meal and, after a rest, spend the rest of the day sitting and walking. There were few books in English there, but the few I could find I reflected on seriously. The little talking I could do was with people whose language I could not speak. The other Western monk was meditating on death, an object of meditation frequently recommended by the Buddha and favored in the forest tradition, and he did not seem to want to pay much attention to me. As it happened, as the months went by, I looked more and more like death myself, and I think he began to find me an interesting object of contemplation. I hadn't been getting on very well with the diet of sticky rice, pickled fish, and chilies, and I lost a lot of weight. But I'd committed myself to stay for the 3 months of the Vasa, and the commitment added to the intensity. I certainly experienced some benefits from the effort I made during this retreat period of intensified practice. About halfway through the 3 months, I had an experience of clarity that I can remember vividly. It was a night or two before my 24th birthday. It was quite spontaneous. I wasn't doing any special practice. I was sitting there in puja one evening, surrounded by the other monks. Puja took place in a very basic, unattractive, open-sided wooden building with the usual grass mats rolled out over the polished concrete floor. We chanted in the same way as every other day, with the same mosquitoes biting and my knees hurting as they usually did. Suddenly, without warning, I found myself experiencing the most wonderful clarity, unlike anything I had ever known before. I experienced an utterly natural, yet at the same time extraordinary sense of well-being. It seemed as though this perspective on things should now last forever, because in reality things had always been that way, only I hadn't noticed it. When puja finished, I felt so elevated that I mentioned it to one of the other monks, and he said, "Let's go and speak to Ajahn Tate about it." There was a tradition in the monastery that 8 or 10 monks would go and see Ajahn Tate after evening chanting and massage him all at the same time. Thai massage is gruesome. You dig your elbows in as deeply as you can. Those Thai monks would really get to work on Ajahn Tate. Somebody would be on his foot, someone else on his leg, someone else on an arm, all digging away. He'd go through this every night. On this particular evening, as we talked about what had happened to me, he stopped the massage, sat up and said, I want to hear more about this. So I explained what I had experienced. That evening he gave me what I consider the second most helpful piece of advice that I've ever received on practice. He said, "These moments of clarity, this mindfulness and presence that you have experienced are very good. From now on, what you have to do in your practice is just to remember like this more quickly." We were talking through a translator, which wasn't easy. If we had been speaking directly, he might have said, "Keep exercising mindfulness in the moment and learn to come back sooner to this clear way of seeing. It's that simple. Make the effort to remember." Little by little, with the right kind of effort, with consistent practice, as I'm sure many of you have realized, we can make a difference. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.